Howdy ho YouTube, Jon-Luke VGC here. Today, I thought it would be fun, while I procrastinate for work, if we went ahead and looked at a team that I had built right at the beginning of Regulation G, and then review a match on a Pokeburm stream that I did, and kind of talk through why I made the moves, and see if now that I have a better understanding of Regulation G, if I would have done anything different. The team focuses around Assault Vest Groudon, and I will go through everything on Showdown here in just a second. But you'll probably notice that the first video I posted was just a straight replay of a match that I had against Burm on one of his streams. So if this is good and people get some enjoyment out of this, I'll go ahead and review that match later. But I would really be interested to see, I haven't watched this match since we did it, but I'm pretty certain I'll be able to remember exactly why I did everything, even though it's been a few weeks. So I'm excited, and let's get started. Let's do this. First things first, let's go ahead and take a look at the Groudon. Pretty simple set. It is max HP with quite a bit of attack investment at Adamant. Really all I wanted to do was give it a little speed for two reasons. One, so that it can outspeed opposing Groudon, because most don't run any speed investment at the time, or only they just throw 4 in there to give it that 1 point advantage. But two, that way under Tailwind, it can go ahead and outspeed other Pokemon like Calyrex Shadow specifically. Heavy Slam is there with Terra Steel because even after an Incineroar Intimidate, Terra Steel Heavy Slam will KO Fluttermane and some other Fairy types. Heat Crash, which at the time was good. Now maybe we want to move closer to something like Fire Punch because the Pokemon that you want to hit this with, like Calyrex Shadow or Calyrex Ice, is pretty heavy. And so there's not much a point. Crunch to hit Calyrex Shadow, it could easily survive one Astral Barrage and then just go right in with this coverage move. And then Stomping Tantrum. As I've mentioned before, my RNG luck in Pokemon isn't particularly great. So I am pretty nervous about actually putting Precipice Blades on a Groudon since it's only 85% accurate. And the fact that Wide Guard was predicted to be insanely prevalent in the meta, and that seems to be pretty true. So I opted for Stomping Tantrum instead, just to give it that 100% accuracy. And then if I Stomping Tantrum into a Protect, Groudon will most likely survive the turn. And that would really help me get some huge burst damage the following turn. Terra Steel also works because it changes my Grass weakness into a Resistance. And then Water's still neutral, but assuming I have Sun up, it's not going to really do that much damage. Pretty simple Ogerpon, Hearthflame, max attack, max speed, Jolly. This is so that way I can outspeed, at the time, max speed Alolan Ninetales, because this was right after the Articuno team was insanely popular, and so we were seeing a lot of Alolan Ninetales plus Articuno combos. So this made it so that turn 1 I could go straight for the Ivy Cudgel, and it was a guaranteed KO. I can't remember if even after Intimidate it was a KO, but you might have had to have Terra'd after an Intimidate from Incineroar. I think. Yeah, follow me just for that coverage. Basic speed booster, bulky Fluttermane. It was just a little bit of additional speed control plus non-prankster taunts, because I think that's pretty important, because Farigiraf maybe died off for a little bit in the beginning of Reg G, but it is certainly back, especially after that Miraidon team I had mentioned in the last video. But Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball. I might actually now, if I was redoing this, I would change Dazzling Gleam to Moonblast. But Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, Taunt, and Icy Wind. Standard speed booster, Walking Wake, max speed, almost max special attack. You'll notice that I put 4 in a lot of things. That's just to kind of optimize. There's not much a difference if I put another single point in here, so I'd rather just maybe give it that a little additional bulk so it doesn't look like I'm just doing 252, 252 on everything. But super standard stat, Life Orb, Hydro Steam, Flamethrower, Draco Meteor, Protect. Another really common, Terra Dark, Dark Urshifu, Wicked Blow, Close Combat, Sucker Punch, Detect. Nothing really to talk about here. Max attack, max speed, Focus Sash. And then at the time I was running a max special attack, max speed, Timid Tornadus. It did some really good damage. Bleak Wind Storm, again, my RNG is pretty bad, so I would miss a lot of Bleak Wind Storms. This is the beginning of kind of like where I was like, okay, I can't use Tornadus. I have to really stick with Whimsicott, or I have to find other means of speed control. But it's a pretty simple attack. I just wanted it to go hot and heavy. A lot of the time when I've surf starter regulation, I go for pretty hyper-aggressive teams because that's how I like to play. And then I'll form what I do to the meta later on. It still seems like hyper offense works in this meta. You just have to do it smartly, especially after we saw something like Choice Specs Terapagos. So that's just a quick overview of the team. I would certainly do some things different now. I don't have the rental anymore because I don't think the team works in the meta. And especially now that Groudon, I remember specifically in early Regulation G, people were singing Groudon's praises. Everybody was insanely ready. And we thought it was going to be this huge monster in the meta. And we were kind of wrong. So I do love Groudon. Gen 3 is my favorite generation of all time. I really wish Groudon could be a little bit better. But it seems like it's now a niche when you have like gravity Sandy Shocks next to it, just so you can really smack out those Precipice Blades. But I remember specifically Wolfie mentioned once that you really want to win with 100% accurate moves because you want to take out as little chance as possible. So let's go ahead. We'll get into the match and we'll see exactly what went down. All right. So while I love Burm talking, I'm going to go ahead and mute the video. We can go ahead and get started. So at team preview, you can see my team is right here. And we have Groudon, King Gambit, Fluttermane, Screamtail, Hisuian Lilligant, and Heatran. I think in the initial beginning, I was like, okay, my biggest threat here is going to be this Hisuian Lilligant. And I was like, I definitely need Ogerpon. Ogerpon's kind of a major win con for me here. They didn't really have anything that was super good into it. I mean, I resist Fluttermane. I have super effective damage into King Gambit. I have super effective damage into Hisuian Lilligant. And if I don't Terra with Mold Breaker, I can hit Heatran for neutral damage. So obviously, I needed to bring Groudon because that's the point of the team. And I selected Fluttermane. No, I don't think I did. I know I led with Ogerpon. And actually, I think it was Dark Urshifu. I led with Dark Urshifu and Ogerpon, and I had Groudon and Walking Wake in the back. At this point, I really loved Walking Wake as a Pokemon, and I was really hoping that it would be even better than it is now with constant photosynthesis boosts. It's certainly not bad, but I think people need to play with it a little bit more, probably people a little smarter than me or with more knowledge of the game. But we can go ahead and skip through kind of his thought process. Or not, because we're going to go ahead and get started. So, Burm's wishing us some GGs. We're going to have some fun. I always really enjoy battling Burm in the streams. I enjoy his streams a lot. So, if you have the time on Tuesday nights, he alternates between streaming battles against the chat and then laddering with an unorthodox team, which is one of my favorite things to do. So, Big Bonks and Wicked Stonks. The rhyme is intentional. And we have Fluttermane and Hisuian Lilligant. So, first things first, he needs to protect Hisuian Lilligant. He does mention this, but I find it really funny that when two people have the exact same weather, neither leads with the weather because you need to, because you hope the other one's going to set it for you. Here, initially my first thought is, okay, this Fluttermane is a problem because I have a Dark Urshifu, but he really has to be worried about Ogerpon because Hisuian Lilligant, since my Ogerpon has Follow Me, is basically a fully walled. So I anticipate that he's going to switch out Hisuian Lilligant on this turn, or he's going to protect it. And this gives me a good opportunity to go ahead and get rid of Fluttermane, which is easily one of the biggest threats on his team to my Dark Urshifu, whom I do think is going to be important later on in the match. So you can see here he switches out to Groudon, and then I think he goes for the Dazzling Gleam to get the damage, which is pretty smart. Because if I go for an aggressive play here, he can get some really good damage into his Dark Urshifu. I mean, it's quad weak. It's definitely going to knock it down to Sash. So he's going to go ahead and get the speed boost. And then I go for the safe play. So I'm going to detect on my Dark Urshifu to stop a Sleep Powder. There's the Dazzling Gleam, which Ogerpon resists. Now remember, Ogerpon is just max attack, max speed, so actually absolutely no bulk in this, and then bam, in the sun, non-Terra, goes down. I can't remember if that was Choice Specs or not, but I did find that really interesting. So remember, this is the beginning of Reg G, so I don't know some of these calcs, neither does he's even mentioning. He's like, I have no idea how this is going to work. This is just for fun, and we're kind of getting an idea. This was before it was even up on Ranked Ladder, so we were all still playing in casual. So I was under the impression that Ogerpon would live a collision course because it has really good natural bulk. And I thought I could kind of go for broke here and get some really good damage on that Hisuian Lilligant. Looking back, I definitely should have Spike Shielded. There was no need to go that aggressive. I had a really good turn 1, and I could have had this match locked a lot sooner if I had done that. So now we see that he goes for the collision course right into Ogerpon, and it gets the one-hit KO. It's KO straight away, which for me at the time was pretty bad. I was indexing on Ogerpon quite a bit for this match. But again, because of that, I didn't think Hisuian Lilligant was much of an issue. So I was like, okay, your Groudon has a super effective move into my Dark Urshifu, most likely has a fire type move for my Ogerpon and a couple of other things, so I need to get rid of that. Now this is a turn, I feel like I made the right play. I definitely made the right play here. I love Burm, he's such a cool dude, but I think he did the wrong thing. Now, it pays off really, really well for him, but my Walking Wake is a threat. It has Flamethrower, super effective into Hisuian Lilligant, and is also super effective into his King Gambit in the back. I have Draco Meteor for Groudon right then and there. This Walking Wake is the threat, and so I anticipated him to Sleep Powder and go for an attack into that, so I thought I can get free damage with Dark Urshifu. I still think I made the right play. I still think this is absolutely the right play for me to make, but he did something that was insanely risky, and it pays off super well for him. So he switches his Groudon out into King Gambit, and I go ahead and protect my Walking Wake, anticipating the Sleep Powder into that slot, and he does not do that. He puts the Sleep Powder into Dark Urshifu. At that point, I was like, oof, okay, that was a really risky move. I didn't know if he did it intentionally or not. Maybe he was like predicting to protect, but I was like, that paid off insanely well for him, because now this next turn, my Walking Wake is totally ready to take some damage. It's like really risky to protect again. And I don't want to switch in Groudon because it has ground type, and a single Solar Blade into that is probably going to knock it out, even though it's Assault Vested and max HP. So he goes for the Terra Dark on King Gambit, which I do think is a pretty good idea. We see him drop that in, because if Dark Urshifu does wake up this turn, I mean, a close combat's quite effective. And at this point, I still think I just have to, I'm hoping to avoid Sleep Powders, because they're only 70% accurate. And there he goes, he gets another one on the Walking Wake. That really hurts me. Now I get insanely lucky, because I do think that Urshifu wakes up this turn. It's a first turn wake. Yep, there he is. And I go straight for the close combat into the King Gambit, and he literally lives on 1. There were some thoughts that maybe at this point the game was glitched, and it was allowing some secret stashes to happen a lot more often than they're supposed to. I'm not going to say that wasn't happening, because it did happen to me a lot. I never actually ran the calc. I was like, whatever. But because at the time I didn't know it was literally 1 HP. I just thought it lived on a little bit. But his King Gambit lives on 1. Gets a huge Kowtow Cleave into my Walking Wake. So here's the deal. I anticipate a Sleep Powder from the Hisuian Lilligant, so I don't want to Sucker Punch that. I want to Sucker Punch the King Gambit in order to get rid of it. I also don't know the item. Well, I later learned that it's Cobra Cloak, but actually the item on the Hisuian Lilligant is, I thought it was going to be Focus Sash, which is the super common item. So I knew that I would need to eventually get damage on it. And here's the Solar Blade. I'm now down 2 stages in Special Defense because I've taken off 2 close combats. I think even at full, like, Urshifu's Special Defense is not that great. I think it's only like 80 or something like that, so I thought I was going to Focus Sash any day of the week, and that's why I could make that kind of aggressive play. So now all he has left is the Hisuian Lilligant and his Groudon. Again, I'm going for broke here and saying that Groudon is kind of the most important Pokemon that he has left. And I'm hoping for good luck. So Walking Wake's now been asleep for 2 turns. He's going to take 1 more turn of sleep, and it's going to wake up. Waking up is in my favor. I'm more likely to wake up than not. So I go, okay, I need to get rid of this Hisuian Lilligant, and I anticipate that he's going to go for the attack. And I have to hope that he attacks with it, because I can't Sucker Punch. But I know it's going to be faster. So I can either hope for the Sleep Powder Miss or go for the Sucker Punch and hope for an actual attack. Ultimately, I get the call right. I go ahead and make the Sucker Punch to break what I believe is a Focus Sash. It is not. It ends up being Covert Cloak instead. And so now the goal is I need Walking Wake to wake up here. If it doesn't, because Groudon protected, I'm fine, and I'll definitely wake up the following turn. But assuming will outspeed. And there we go. I do actually wake up on that turn, and I hit the flamethrower, causing Shenyun to go down. I really like Burm's nicknames. I think they're all really great. They're certainly funny. So now, I'm just now revealing my final Pokemon, and we bring out the illustrious Groudon. It's actually really funny. This whole team is built around Groudon, and in its introductory match to the internet, I don't even really use it. That happens sometimes. So I go for broke here. I've got 2 moves. I'm definitely going to KO. He's probably hoping for the Precipice Blade miss plus Draco miss, which is a totally fair thing to do, but I can just go for Stomping Tantrum, and I can go for Draco and guarantee a KO one way or the other. And Draco manages to hit, and I win the match. I thought it was really fun. It was a really interesting introduction into Regulation G. I'm very happy with how I played that match. I definitely made my own mistake when I didn't Spiky Shield with Ogerpon that one turn, anticipating that it could flip a collision course. I didn't totally understand how Orichalcum Pulse worked at that point, so I thought just its natural bulk would allow me to live 1, and as he was mentioning in the stream, so did he. So I learned from that. I didn't need to be so aggressive. As I said, I normally build very hyper-aggressive and play that way, but particularly in Regulation F, I had to learn how to play the pivot game. So I was utilizing, Incineroar a lot. Citrus Berry Incineroar in Regulation F I thought was really good. I love Choice Scarf Urshifu, some of those things. So that's actually what I took to Charlotte when I did the regionals there in January. I did Choice Scarf Ursh. I beasted off a different team. I don't think Incineroar was legal at that point. If he was, I wasn't using him. But all in all, I thought it was a really good match. Thank you again to Burm for letting me use these streams to record some of my videos. And I hope you guys got some use out of it. There's no longer a rental for this team. I don't think it's particularly viable in the meta anymore. I would have to play around with adding Precipice Blades and maybe switch to a Wide Lens or something. But at least for now, Groudon's just better, unfortunately. I do love Groudon. I'm glad Kyogre is good, but not as good as it was in Gen 8. And some other stuff. So if you guys have any questions or want to see me do anything else, if you like this specific type of video, I'd be happy to do it again. So please leave a comment about what you want to do. And my friend Twan yesterday reminded me that I need to tell y'all to like and subscribe in a true YouTuber fashion. So I hope everyone has a good day and has a good Memorial Day weekend, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.